uploading consciousness.
I started playing Forsaken with some friends recently. It's good, just not my personal cup of tea. I haven't played Killer much since I turned it off in the settings, but the survivor gameplay is pretty nice. You run around, do this same puzzle many times. You sometimes get chased by the killer. You sometimes get to escape. Depends on your survivor and skill. It's fine. But my main problem with it is this game is really fast, which is a good thing when it comes to the chases. They feel a lot more high energy, high pressure, and so it really makes the excitement build up, and you have a lot more fun with them. However, when it comes to everything else in the game, it's kind of a detriment to have the action go that fast. Because once the action dies down and you're nowhere near the killer, the survivors have no pressure. They're not fighting against the clock. There aren't really any other things that can harm them outside of the killer themselves. And so the game becomes a really slow and just horrible feeling experience. Thus, I embarked upon a quest to find an asymmetrical game just for me. And along that quest, most of the games I found kind of just fell into the same three categories of Forsaken Clone, Dead by Daylight, or Granny.
Explorers of the Internet.
All these games are the same. Someone's the Granny, or Piggy, or Guesty, or Kitty, and then the survivors, they solve, let's be generous and say, puzzles by collecting stuff and then using them. And then you kind of just have to hope you don't die from whoever's playing as the Granny or whatever. Basically, the only improvement that I think it has against Forsaken is that instead of killers fighting against the clock, it's survivors, which adds more pressure that they need in order to, get done faster. Other than that, these are all the same. They don't deserve individual discussion, in my opinion. The fun had with them is usually nothing beyond bullying kids. Slenderman, all the children try to run. Stop It Slender is a classic. I remember playing it a lot back in the day. However, I will admit, it is very basic. Whoever is playing as Slender has no variation in what they play as. Everyone who's a survivor has no variation in what they play as. There is kind of just the very necessities of an asymmetrical game. It's not particularly bad, however, it is not particularly interesting either. Dead by Daylight, except without saving my settings. Dead by Daylight, except with worse server queues. Forsaken Clone. Dead by Daylight, but with lesbian Korean Americans. Daybreak has a lot more nuances than just that, however, it is very similar to just normal Dead by Daylight. Forsaken, but with gambling. Actually, no, there's quite a bit more to it than just that. On the surface, this game is just Forsaken but with gambling. However, it has quite a few differences. Most notably, no objectives. The survivors just have to live out the timer, and it can be extended by the killer. Also, every single ability that survivors have, entirely random. You cannot choose your abilities. There are also random events that can happen during certain rounds, which adds another layer of something interesting going on each match that you can't exactly control. All these changes add a lot more variety than just what normal Forsaken has, and works to the game's advantage very well. Die of Death without gambling, which is notably less fun.
Now, Odie, and I'm here to say some words for me teenagers.
This game is pretty neat. It has a lot of references to internet horror in general, rather than just Roblox, whatever. Like Forsaken, survivors are waiting for the timer to run out. However, unlike Forsaken, that time limit is fixed. The killer has that much time to get everyone, and everyone has that much time to run from the killer. Objectives don't help at all. They're just there to give you more money, which does practically nothing in this game. However, I will admit it is really fun to go against some of these killers in specific. My only complaint is that getting hit all the way from Africa has been a regular occurrence for me in this game.
I still see your games in your profile. Can't take back the bumps.
Forsaken clone. Dead by Daylight, but it takes several minutes to get into a game. This game looks really neat. The models look really good. The maps also look really good. However, beyond that, this game is a nightmare in more ways than one. All the animatronics are just skins for the same basic playstyle. The only way to switch that up is to enchant your animatronics. How do you do that? With Remnant. How do you get Remnant? By winning. How do you win? As a survivor, you have to hope the killer doesn't rage quit, which is a tall task considering all the small little things that makes the killer's job so hard and so not fun. Survivors don't make any noise. You can only track them from sound if it's the things they interact with, so like doors and the terminals they're working on. You have no other audio cues to go on, which is especially annoying since survivors can hear you coming a mile away, since the killer, every time they take a single step, and certain maps have crawl spaces that don't look like a survivor should go through them. And once you finally get a survivor through every single challenge you are given, they easily escape your grasp, and so you have to chase them down again and hope that you're close enough to a ball pit that they can't escape from you in the 5 seconds it takes to get there. I'd play this game more. However, it infuriates me way too much with all these small little problems that make it extremely annoying to play, especially when I get the killer for half my games. Let me turn it off. Minecraft. Take a wild guess. Also, I should probably explain the Minecraft thing. Trepidation looks really good. However, unlike Five Nights Hunted, there's more going on than just that. For instance, I can turn off my killer chance. I don't want to turn off my killer chance in this game since it's actually fun to play as the killer. Each killer isn't just some skin of the same playstyle. They all have their own playstyles and they all have their own skins. For instance, if I'm going up against Voltas, I'm going to be playing differently than if I'm going up against the Shade. And if I'm playing as the Necreon, I'm going to be playing differently than if I'm playing as the Alternate. But that's not all the variety this game has. Each map also has different set pieces, different kinds of objectives, different kinds of mini-games you can play to open boxes to get materials to do crafting. This game has crafting. The crafting system isn't anything terribly complicated, however it is something important to the game, and it is also something that makes it stand out from a lot of the other Asym games on Roblox. Most objectives in this game don't differ mechanically that much, however a lot of them are pretty cool, like this one. This game also has guns you can just pick up and shoot the killer with. It won't kill them, but it will stun them, and it's a useful thing to know. Anyway, here's a clip of me popping off his killer.
You have been transferred to an automatic voice call, because this clown forgot to record his complaints about the game. #1, no lesbian Korean American goth girls. Number 2, maps only have one exit, which makes it easy for the killer to camp. Please add at least one more exit for each map. Richard Nixon 3, please don't have objectives I can't interact with exist in the world. It is confusing. Numero D Noche 4, nerf Voltus. Or at least stop him from yanking my camera around. It's really annoying. Also, I'd like it if you kicked all bad players from my lobbies. That is the end of the automatic voice call. please hit subscribe button. If we reach 1,000 subscribers, this clown will make a longer video elaborating on his thoughts about some of these games. This is an automatic voice call. All promises are not subject to be fulfilled, because I am an automatic voice call and not the clown that set it up. You are liable for your own actions.
But I cannot change you, so I must get builder's club. Yup.
After that, I entered a month-long coma called Dandy's World. Throughout that month, I never really felt the urge to return any of these games. I did check up on some of them after they released new updates. However, most of them I still have roughly the same opinion on. Murderthon is the only one of those that I think really had a significant improvement. So I wondered, why do I think I'm fit to really talk about asymmetrical games, especially on Roblox, if I didn't really enjoy any of the ones I played? And then while looking at which groups I was in, I remembered exactly why I got into this kind of game in the first place.
She's so nice. She's so nice. But 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 she's so nice.
Escape the Darkness was very much a Dead by Daylight clone. However, it simplified things to make it much more approachable to much more people. It also had some complexities that none of these other games really have. For example, there's a variety of objectives that you can complete in a variety of ways. Each stage of a round has different objectives that play differently. If you got fuse boxes, you'd unlock a box, and then you had to carry the fuse over to the fuse box, which somehow felt very different from gas tanks, where you had to carry gas over to a gas tank and then fill up the gas tank. It's a different order of waiting and movement. However, it felt very unique despite that. And then you also have your generic generators for these games. Objectives aren't the only thing that are simple and complex. Abilities in this game are also far simplified compared to other games in this genre. However, that didn't take away from their complexity. Many different combinations of these skills allowed many different playstyles. And then the variety of different skills themselves had various complexities as well. For example, this ability, widely considered useless, could be used to position yourself more effectively in the map. Then, once you're in position, you can preemptively begin doing tasks that other people might not have been able to. Or this ability, which lets you have a speed boost after you vault. It has a shorter cooldown than the athlete's marathon ability. However, you have to use a vault, which isn't rare. However, it's not something you can just instantly pull out. Killer abilities follow much of the same format, where they're very simple. However, they can be mixed and matched to combine and make something truly atrocious and sweaty and horrible to play against. At least until survivors locked in and just got way too good at the game. Ultimately, the devs took the game down 2 or 3 years ago. However, it is probably the one game on this platform that I've been able to play for months on end. Before and after that point, I never really had a game I can just go to and just play for hours on end and dedicate entire days towards. However, it's gone, and so I'm left trying to fill in that void. And it doesn't look like their other project is coming out anytime soon. So until it comes back, I'll just have to play something like it, but not exactly perfect, at least in my opinion. So until it comes back, or another game fills that void, I'll just have to kind of deal with the fact that not every game can be Escape the Darkness, and that other people can make their own takes on this genre and not have to do exactly what I want them to do with this genre. Just because I didn't think Trepidation was perfect, or that being a clone is kind of a bad thing, people want to make these games, so why should I tell them how to do it? Unless you're trying to steal people's cash, just make whatever you want. I'm not your dad. And now that I'm recording this, I kind of do feel like going back to play some Murderthon in trepidation. Maybe I'll even take a quick glance at some of the ones I wasn't a big fan of and didn't want to check out the updates for, like Condemned, or one of the other ones I didn't really get back to. Maybe in the future I'll talk more in depth about Escape the Darkness. I have 40 gigabytes of footage for this game. I need to use it somehow. So if that's of any interest to anyone, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Who knows? However, this is the current state of Asymmetrical on Roblox. Yo, I'm here's tier list of the games in their current state as of recording. It's 9/11 as of recording. Tier list of the games as of 9/11 2025. Like 3-ish, a bit before 3 p.m. I think.